Maybe not. All right, we're going. Oh, there we are.
Awesome.
Now we're going. Awesome. Um, so Janet, thanks for doing this with me today. We're going to do a character wheel. So the character wheel is about establishing a voice for a character that you're either writing and struggling with or want to write and haven't yet. It's about laying a foundation for your character's voice so that when you write your character, when you actually get into the script, you have something to build off of. So it's not like a finalized thing. It's a starting place to kind of bring some depth to your character so that you don't have to discover it while you're writing, which is what I try to avoid. The reason I started doing this with my work was because I would start writing in about chapter 13 of a book. I'd realize like, oh, that's what this character sounds like. And then I'd have to go all the way back to chapter 1. So this has helped me just doing this in advance, building out like, how's the character going to sound? But before we jump into your character, the book this character is in is called The Birds. Would you mind telling us right now, working title, would you mind telling us a little bit about it?
It's a story of a group. They all have some sort of addiction. They've all suffered some kind of loss. And so there's one character that is like, I'm thinking of her like a healer more than, they're not going into a group office and having a meeting. They just all meet. It's more, the setting is Pacific Northwest. So it's a little,
Awesome.
yeah, just a little bit more woo-woo, we'll say.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love it. And so a kind of family drama in genre, would you say?
It's going to be shaped more that way for sure, because when it was written, when I first started thinking about it, it was just more literary fiction.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And I want to soften it up a bit.
Gotcha. Well, this is very close to my heart. I worked for years helping people recover from addiction. So I love that this just happens. I didn't know that before we started working on this book. So I love that this is the character we're going to talk about. And the character we're talking about is Johny Red.
Mm-hmm.
Did I get that right, or is it Reds?
Nope, red.
Johny Red. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to share a piece of the worksheet where we can get started. And this is just, I'm doing this in case you're curious, I'm just doing this in a Microsoft PowerPoint thing. I find that I use PowerPoint a lot because it allows me to scroll around and move around and be picturesque while I still just type in. So let's start off with Johny Red's voice. And let's just talk about Johny. And while we talk, I'm going to take a few notes. So talk to me about who Johny is.
So he is the best friend of Griffin, and he drives a Splitty, a Volkswagen bus.
Nice.
And the pieces of his life that he can't let go of, he hoards them. They're all in this van.
Okay.
So
keep going. I'm sorry.
Oh no, that's okay. So like he drives everywhere. He drives Griffin everywhere because Griffin is an alcoholic and he's lost his license. So that's their friendship.
Would you say, is he a best friend that supports Griffin's life, or is he trying to help Griffin become something else?
They met in their group, so they don't know that much about who they were before their addictions, and he does not support. Like, he's a really gentle person, but he does not. He's always upset that his friend chooses to drink.
Gotcha. Would you describe him as, you use the word gentle, is he fun-loving or shy?
He lost his daughter, and so he's just very injured by that, and that's what I mean by is gentle.
Gotcha. That's interesting. How does he if you were to describe how he sounds, how would you describe his sound?
I get the impression that he talks to himself a lot, and that to entertain himself, he makes everything rhyme.
Nice. So is he a man of few words or a man of a lot of words?
No, he says very little. He has a lot of conversations with his daughter, his daughter's memory, like with her things that he has in the van.
Huh, okay.
So he talks to himself, he talks to his daughter, but he says very little to everyone else because he's in that constant state uh, of injury, I guess, like that he can't get it, that he hasn't gotten over what happened.
It sounds very reflective, kind of
Mm.
very quiet when he presents to someone else, quiet, reflective, but when he's talking to himself or to his daughter, he becomes a little more verbose.
Yeah, because I feel like he probably checks out when people are trying to talk to him. He just goes internal. He's got a
Gotcha.
very internal world. Yeah.
Gotcha. So would he come off as spacey?
I don't think so.
Okay. Just internal.
Yeah.
With going back to the rhyming, is when he talks to other people, is he um, playful or serious?
Yeah. No, he's playful.
Playful. Okay. So what I hear you saying is and let's when he's at his core. So I'm going to call this his core voice. Um, and when we say his core voice, what we're talking about is like when you think of who he is, regardless of the circumstances around him, this is how he's going to appear to other people. So he's
Okay.
quiet and playful, with a deep internal life,
Okay.
is what I hear you describe. Does that feel accurate?
It does. I don't know if this matters either. I get the impression too that when he's in a group, he only interacts with Griffin and another character, Helena,
Okay.
and that if something's bothering him, they tell somebody that that's bothering him.
Gotcha. So he's standoffish with people.
Just, well,
In,
quiet.
okay. So let's take this initial sketch, because,
Okay.
and yeah, let's do this first. Let's take this initial sketch, and let's talk about how his voice might change in different situations. So
Okay.
part of what makes characters dynamic is how they're different in different places they talk. So to contrast some super popular characters, um, Harry Potter.
Okay.
When Harry is speaking to authority in those novels, he's direct and defensive. But when he's alone in a room with Hermione and Ron, he's reflective and a little wounded. You always know it's Harry because Harry's always has that champion voice of someone struggling to become something else, but that voice changes based on his circumstances, and it's part of what makes his character really, really rich, and really fun to read and interact with. So we're going to put Johny through a bunch of different situations
Cool.
and talk about how his voice may change or not change. And the key
Okay.
is, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. The key is we don't want him to change too much, right? Because then he feels unrealistic until we really want him to change. So what I mean by that is, let's think about the TV show Gilmore Girls, which is such a great example of fantastic dialogue. Lorelai, the main character, very witty, snappy, sharp, short sentences that run on. So you get this like feel of like a running pacing in her dialogue, full of cultural references. She's always that way. Even in like serious situations, she'll have quick, witty comebacks. So the amount she says may go down, but she still has these quick retorts until she gets in a moment where she is being revealed or embarrassed. And when she's revealed or embarrassed, she becomes stoic and quiet. So the voice is the same in every situation for a character until we find a situation that's like, oh, this situation is important. And then we want to change their voice because that's when the reader will notice. So just thinking about that as a guideline, we want to move into these areas. So we've got this quiet and playful character who likes to rhyme things and is very reflective, talking to himself a lot. How is he when he's around friends that he's comfortable with?
I think he's very playful.
Okay, so the playful is accentuated.
Yeah.
Does he rhyme with himself or with other people? Like, is he trying to rhyme what other people are saying or what he's saying?
Only his responses are in rhyme.
Okay.
And I'm not sure if he would do that with other people,
Okay.
because I think he worries that they're going to think he's more crazy than he already is.
Gotcha. So there's an awareness that he might sound crazy. How does that impact how he interacts with his friends? Is he more comfortable here and not worried about it, or is he still concerned about it with them?
I think he's still concerned.
Okay. Let's say we move him from being with friends to a situation where he's with strangers and he feels more guarded. Does he speak more or less?
Have I made this difficult? Because he doesn't, other than his house and his van, he really doesn't go anywhere. So he doesn't interact with a lot of people.
That's perfectly fine. There's nothing better or worse. Let's say that he's in a conversation in his van where someone says something that makes him uncomfortable.
I think he'd ignore them.
Okay, great. I'm going to use the word people poking at him.
Okay.
So I think that's a really important thing that could possibly bring some really great depth to the character and some really great conversations in your work, right? If there's a moment where somebody is making him uncomfortable in a situation where he wants to be guarded, like let's say he's in his van and he's talking to one of his friends in the van and they say something to him that pushes him in a direction, writing in the dialogue that he's not going to respond to that emotional thing right away is great.
Okay. Yeah.
It's going to bring some real depth to him, and it's going to give you the opportunity to drill down on emotional moments. And what I mean by that is when you push him to this place where he's uncomfortable and feeling guarded, someone's going to have to poke at him multiple times to get him to respond. And it's going to give you a really strong, I can even see you working him out to a place where he ignores people poking at him and tries to continue the playful demeanor. I don't know if you've ever talked to somebody like that who doesn't want to deal with conflict necessarily. So they just continue on as if nothing happened.
Yeah.
And when someone wants to really push him, they're going to have to do it a lot. So it gives you this opportunity to sit in emotional moments with him and really create an emotional build, which is a really cool opportunity for a character. So let's talk about, let's say he's in the van with one of the friends, and they reveal something about him that he doesn't want to talk about. They address his addiction head on, or they say something to him that makes about his daughter that makes him really uncomfortable, and they won't stop. How does he change when he's being pushed?
He's the kind of guy that has his routines. So like he can't drive somewhere unless he's checked. He's got a list of things he has to check before he goes anywhere.
Okay.
And yeah, if someone threatened him, I think he would just ignore them and then start doing his routine. Yeah.
Gotcha. Is he going to, it sounds like he's going to run away from danger.
Yeah.
So danger comes in dialogue. Danger comes in multiple ways. Danger can come um, in physical danger, like, oh, I'm going to hurt you. And we have that fight or flight mechanism. It sounds like what you're saying about Johny is that he's going to run away from danger in a fleeing type way in dialogue, that he's going to try to escape threatening situations in order to return to his routine and comfort, which is good to know, because there's a lot of different ways you can do that. The movie Rain Man did this so beautifully with dialogue, in that whenever I can't remember, oh, dang it, all names now are slipping my mind. Whenever the autistic characters felt threatened, he went into self-comforting by counting and saying the same thing over and over again. And you get that kind of rocking. And then when it got really bad, he would scream. And that screaming was about pushing everyone away. Now, you're not describing somebody who's autistic, so I think you can take the screaming, like, don't push them to screaming. But there is some great opportunity here where, maybe you can build some routines into the character from the get-go when he's not threatened, like checking the tires on his van, like checking the air pressure of the tires on his van, or testing the horn, or, starting to clean the dashboard or something like that, so that when he's feeling guarded and threatened, you have some kind of tick to go back to give him that escape. Which can, again, like, dialogue is this great, when he's interacting with other people and having these dialogue moments, it's this great time to really engage the reader emotionally and hit them on an emotional level. And then when we can grab them emotionally, they remember those scenes forever. So for him, this idea of like being pushed to the point of being threatened will help him get this going, his escape back to routine. If you can build a routine around his van that is something that he does all the time anyway, it can give a great emotional pull that really lets the reader relate to him in a powerful way, especially writing literary fiction where you want to show more than you do, and you want that depth of character, right? Like, getting that tick is going to be great. Yeah, kind of like in Mice and Men, Lenny always comes back to talking about rabbits when he knows he's done something wrong. It's that kind of like return to comfort for him, which I think is awesome. Okay, let's see which other one of these. How is he going to respond if he's feeling rejected?
Yeah,
So
because I
let's.
think I think if Griffin is drinking, then Johnny's going to feel rejected.
How does he respond to Griffin's drinking?
I think what they do with Griffin, I mentioned Helena and Johny. I think they both just say, well, you've made your choice, so you don't get to have time with us. And so his rejection is going to be, Johnny's rejection is going to be, well, I have to leave. I have to take you home, and I have to go do my routine and park my van.
Gotcha. I love that phrase. Um, I love that phrase. I have to take you home and park my van, because there's some like really beautiful return to for him, a return to home. And I like, there's a little bit of non sequitur in that park my van, because it's like, does anybody actively go do that, right? Like it's like a passive like thing that he's like making into this, thing that I do. That's like, most people wouldn't think like, okay, now I have to go park my car. They're going to a destination, but for him, in this, making this routine his choice, this like, okay, now I got to take you home and I got to go park my van. And you can almost see the conversation being like, no, man, just look, all I need you to do is just drive me just a couple more places and, pick up a couple more things. And you could just see Johnny Red being like, no, I got to park. It's time. I got to park my van. It's time for me to park my van. Yeah, there's a really great, man, it would be good too if you could come up with a rhyme around park my van. Because then you could bring back that playfulness, which in a normal conversation, the rhyme around park my van will just feel like fun, like Johnny's having a good time. But in an intense moment where he's having a confrontation with Griffin, park my van, the rhyme around park my van will actually really rip at the heartstring of a reader, because you start to feel the like vulnerability of Johnny in the midst of this tension. Yeah, so I love that. I like where you're going with that. And just to encourage you, combining those two things would make a great reader pull, like grab that reader and pull them into this character.
Okay.
Yeah, so let's talk about, I'm going to skip making first impression, because we've kind of laid out that that's not really something that he's going to encounter much. He's not meeting a ton of people. But let's talk about when he's feeling, in the opposite of feeling threatened. Sorry if you can hear my kids in the background. It's COVID-19 days. I have 5 children and they are all over me all the time. Thus, I'm in the glorious basement. We do what we can, right?
Right.
Let's talk about when he's feeling, and for this character, I'm going to combine these two, when he's feeling safe and comfortable. So we have him with his friends feeling playful, like that's accentuated and really pumped down, and he's aware that he might sound crazy, so he's still concerned. How does his quiet playfulness change when all the tension is gone and the moment is, and he's at peace?
I don't think he shares, like, his van is got bags of clothes and her books and everything from her room, and she was 16, but he's got like things from when her play kitchen, right? Like things from when
Yeah.
she's young, and he doesn't share that with anyone. And I think that he feels comfortable, he's going to take his photo album out and say, this is Heather.
Nice. So he'll start to share with people
Yeah.
when he feels extreme comfort. How does he sound when he's talking to his daughter?
I picture that he talked very different to her when she was alive than when she's passed. He thinks of her as much younger, so he talks to her like she's a young child.
Gotcha. There's a lot of different ways we talk to children. Sometimes when we talk to children, we're more fanciful, in a playful way, where we kind of story tell a little bit. Sometimes when we talk to children, we're more motherly. We are more caring and compassionate. So if you put Johnny in his van alone with a photo album, talking to the ghost of his daughter about a memory, what does that voice sound like?
When you were talking there, you made me think. I think he's talking to her in a way that he's making sure he's taking care of her needs, because the accident that happens to her happens because he wasn't aware that she needed something.
Oh,
Like he, okay.
that's great. Sorry, keep going. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
um, no, I don't know that I had anything else to say, but she, and it's to do with the van too. Like he wouldn't give her a ride somewhere, and something happens to her on her walk. So
Got it. So it's really with his daughter. So when we come out, let's take a step back. I feel like we've hit a bunch of really good points with him. I don't feel like we need confident in making a first impression, because I don't know that the way you're describing Johny, he's ever actually going to be confident in a conversation. Would you agree with that? Or are there times where he's really confident and aggressive?
the thing I want to say is that I don't know where his arc is going to end. and
Okay.
I and he was a minor character, and I thinking of making him more of a bigger character. So what is he going to look like when he can let go?
That's a great question. So when he's got some healing, um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I love that. How does his voice change in the end?
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts in that direction?
Uh, yeah, because is he just taking care of himself, or is he going to be able to come out of where he is and help his friend Griffin?
Yeah, and I really, as we're talking, I really love this contrast we've built here of feeling threatened and needing to return to this routine, or feeling rejected and going back to his routine again.
Mm-hmm.
But when he's at his most comfortable and his strongest, he's in this place where he's caring for another person. So I almost want to say, like, when he gets to this place of healing where he can let go, I like where you're going with this idea that, okay, in healing and letting go, he brings everyone else into kind of the world of his daughter, where there's a compassionate, caring escape from routine
Okay.
here. I don't know. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I'd be happy if he was able to do that. Like if he, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. You almost want to like, when I think about the voice that we're working on here, let's just walk it through the wheel um,
Okay.
to get a feeling for how it is. Let's pull this one out, because we're not going to use that one, and bring this one up. So when we're talking about Johny's voice and how Johny sounds in your novel, so I keep using this word voice, but it's like, how does he come off in comparison to other characters? We've got this character who's hoarding things in a van, who gets upset when his friends drink, but in general presents as gentle, and internally is injured by the loss of his daughter. He talks to himself a lot, and he likes to rhyme, and he's playful. But he seems to have an internal life. So that playfulness with quietness will really bring that out, right? Like the quiet playful is going to make a reader ask, like, what's going on with this guy? Like, there's something else here, especially if he's rhyming in a childlike way, because it brings in that like touch of innocence that I feel like you're going for.
Yeah.
um when he is, so this is who he is when he's with friends. He's still playful, but he's aware that he might sound crazy. He's still concerned, and what we've said is that there's focus on routine. So even when he's with friends in his van or at home, there's still a focus on routine of what he's doing. As he gets more comfortable and starts to feel more around people, that really happens in his room. But as he gets more comfortable around other people, he might actually start to talk about Heather, uh, reference her, refer to her, remember things about her. When he's with his daughter, which is his place of most comfort, so if we're kind of coming around the wheel to being with his daughter, he starts talking to her like a parent talks to a child, and he's very concerned that she has what she needs. Um, and it's a great character arc because through that voice, you can start hinting at why the accident happened without ever talking about it. So just you almost can visualize him. Like if we were to walk through a progression here, we could see him hanging out outside the van with Griffin and Helena. They're talking and dominating the conversation, and he's just firing in some playful accents, maybe rhyming a little bit, adding a little bit, but being that kind of quiet presence. As the conversation becomes more intimate, you can see him referencing Heather and being like, just like Heather used to say, or just like Heather used to do, and bringing that touch about his daughter in, and then leaving the conversation with them and going into the van. And you can picture him rummaging through the things and finding the photo album and sitting down and then having this conversation about, do you remember, I really just wanted to make sure you had that thing. That thing was really important to me. Like, so you get this progression of Johnny's voice that can really become this really intimate moment for him and the reader, where they're seeing that this is who it wants to be but this is who he presents as right now because of the injury. If we go around the wheel in the other direction, let's say that he's driving with Griffin, and Griffin starts pushing him to go get a drink or go get something else to use or go get a high, and is hinting at it. As Griffin hints at it, Johnny's going to start talking about his routine. Well, I need to park the van tonight. I don't know that I can go there. I need to do this thing. I got to drop you off, and I got to park the van. Right. And it's just as slow. And then when we move into Johnny feeling threatened, we can really bring that out of, you know what? I got to do it right now. Routines have to happen right now. And I don't want to talk about it anymore. Right. If Griffin starts pointing out, like, you want to drink too, you want it as well. We can have that moment with Johnny where he's like, got to get out right now. I'm not even taking you home. I got to park the van, but making the focus about the routine and about what he wants. As opposed to actually dealing with the alcohol that is between them. When Griffin drinks and he and Helena have to reject Griffin, you get this, this is what you guys are talking about is nice, but I got to go take care of my van right now. I can't be here anymore. I got to take care of this thing. So you get that feeling of rejected and threatened where he's returning to routines. And what's beautiful is we can paint this really dynamic character that's moving from someone who's shutting down, focused on routines and isolating himself, to someone who, if we come all the way around the wheel, to someone who is compassionate and concerned and is really focusing on others and not the routine. And so it gives this great, and then the payoff there is, can he actually escape his routine to help someone else, and be the father to someone else that he wants to be to his daughter, right? Like, can he come in? Yeah. So there's that. I love the character you have here. I think it's really great.
I love what you just said there about that he's going to parent someone else. Yeah, that's great.
Okay, so I'm gonna clean this up a little bit so it actually looks like something you can use, and I'll send it to you so you can use it as you write. Hopefully it'll be helpful as just a reference tool that as you write, Johnny, you can work out with.
Oh, I love this. And then I can take this and use it with my other characters. I'll know where to go with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, part of what I do with this, sorry, I can't type and talk at the same time. Part part of what I do with this and what I like to do is put my other main characters. I don't necessarily use this for side characters, but I'll take my other main characters. So I'd encourage you to take Griffin and Helena and do the same thing with them, right? Where's their core voice? So it sounds like Griffin is kind of your anti-hero,
Yeah.
anti-protagonist, who's kind of pushing for them to do things they don't want. How does that impact his voice? And how does his voice change with friends feeling comfortable and then in his safe place? And how does it feel when he's guarded, threatened, or rejected? And then the great thing about doing this is you can take that feels rejected from each character and line it up right before you write a conversation. So if all three characters are feeling rejected, you have all three of their personalities on beautiful display. And like, what does that look like? If all three characters are comfortable and having a good time, you have all three dynamic personalities on display. And what does that look like? So you can start kind of matching them up and playing that way. I almost think of them as like sticky notes. You can like take them and post them next to each other and be like, okay. And I'll do this when I'm writing. I'll be like, okay, the conversation I'm about to write, like the detective series I'm writing right now, I've got Stacy and Mo and Amy are the three kind of detective crew. And I had a scene where Stacy and Mo were about to be harassed by these kind of evil police officers. They both felt very threatened and very helpless. So I took Mo's helplessness, which Mo is more of a stoic character. And when she gets threatened, she goes into that fight mode and like, I'm not going to take it from you. And so it's a really great push for Mo to go out of like her normal stoic passiveness to this aggressive, like, I don't like that I'm feeling threatened and I'm lashing out. Stacy, on the other hand, her core voice is very playful and she's kind of like great time at a party, Stacy. And when she feels threatened, she goes quiet. So being able to take the contrast and put them into this conversation together really helped me write that dialogue. To say like, okay, in this moment, Mo needs to build an aggression and Stacy needs to come down to silence, and bringing that kind of volume for both of them up and down. But yeah, so I'd recommend doing it for other characters if you can, and then using the cards in comparison to each other to be like, okay, yeah, this card fits here and this card fits there.
Oh, this is awesome. Yeah.
Great. All right. Well, thanks. I'm going to stop sharing. Thanks for doing this with me. I'm going to end the recording, and then we can chat
Okay.
for a second.
Thank you.